District, Maryland, and Virginia, this is News 4, Washington, with Glenn Rinker, Don Cereals, and Dan Daniels. Tonight, state lotteries examined.
Good evening. Jim Vance is on vacation. The Justice Department is looking closely at 13 state lotteries, including the Maryland lottery, to see if they possibly violate federal criminal laws. The investigation was set off by a challenge to the state lottery in Maine. The question was then turned over to the Justice Department. The department's ultimate decision will affect the lotteries in Maine, Connecticut, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, Maryland, Delaware, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and those being started in Illinois and Ohio. The D.C. Board of Elections has agreed to reprint the September 10th primary ballot and list all the Democratic at-large candidates in one column. 3 at-large council candidates had contested the way they are currently listed on the ballot in 2 columns, claiming it was confusing and misleading. And as many of you know all too well, electric bills in Washington and the Maryland suburbs have jumped drastically in the past few months. Today, the Potomac Electric Power Company held a news conference to explain why. A Pepco spokesman emphasized that even though consumers are saving energy, increased fuel costs and hotter weather mean higher electric bills.
Now, the problem of that higher bill that our customers are facing is twofold. There are 2 factors. First, I found almost invariably that our customers are so distressed by that high dollar amount that they aren't taking into consideration the fact that they have bought a number of units of our product from us, kilowatt hours, on their monthly bills. And the second is the really horrendous influence of the fuel cost adjustment on these bills.
The spokesman added that Pepco plans to ask for another rate increase later this year. The Falls Church City Council has cut personal property taxes in the city by 11 cents. The Falls Church Council also cut the Falls Church budget for 1975 by $81,500. Former City Council Chairman Gilbert Hahn says Mayor Washington does not need to wait until January to change the current law on water main breaks. The law says that the nearest property owner has to pay for water main breaks, even if they're in the middle of the street. Hahn says the mayor can issue an executive order now to change that law. The mayor has said, if elected, he would ask City Council for legislation to solve the water main dilemma in January. And we'll have the latest on the Moses Malone story and Dwayne Thomas coming up on News 4.
Mr. Weaver, my customer at 3346, tells me he's only going to get 1 paper from now on. So I asked him which one. And he tells me he hasn't made his mind up yet. So I like to keep good customers, and I tell him he ought to take the Washington Post. So he says, why? And I said, look, it's like they say, the Post gives you everything you need to know to deal with your day. Plus, you got all those great columnists like Nick Von Hoffman. And he says he don't like Von Hoffman. So I say, yeah, but what about Art Buchwald and Sally Quinn? He likes Sally Quinn. And the style section, and Bill Furlong on sports, and all like that. He says, Then comes the kicker. He says, yeah, but the Post costs more. So I give him one of these and I say, yeah, 2 cents more a month than the competition for home delivery. He says, including Sunday? You sold me. How'd you get so smart anyway? When I'm not delivering the Post, I read it.
Chicks. Painful, blood-sucking chicks. Now a scientific breakthrough. The new Trix collar. The first dog collar that kills ticks and fleas from head to toe. Veterinarian tested. The Trix collar kills ticks within hours. Gives continuous protection. Okay, boy, go on. Have a good time. Get the new Trix tick and flea collar.
Available at Dark Drug.
It's the gay 90s, and even now, families are moving into homes expertly built by the McCarthy Company. The roaring 20s and the carefree 30s, and even more and more home buyers are looking to the now nationally known McCarthy name. The contemporary 70s, and today you'll find the McCarthy name on the outstanding home communities of Bordeaux, the Timbers, Cinnamon Creek, and the luxury condominium in Alexandria, Place 1, towering above all others. We've been building up to it since 1892.
Studying becomes more attractive when the student in your house is well furnished. Select one of the desks or corner groupings, now midsummer sale priced at C.L. Barnes Manassas store.
The Prince George's County Council today considered 2 emergency bills to cut the rents for elderly and handicapped persons in the county. One of the bills would tie a decrease in rent to income. The other bill would return 15% of the rent to an eligible tenant. And as you may have heard by now, Dwayne Thomas has been dropped by the Redskins. And Dan, this is a real surprise. It looked like we had a different Dwayne Thomas lately.
It seemed that way, Glenn, particularly in Carlisle this year compared to last. He'd been working very, very hard. He had been the starting fullback along with Larry Brown in the backfield. He'd been more talkative, more at ease with the people at Carlisle, with the coaches, with the people in the front office organization. But he had not been feeling well, I'm told, in the last few days, and maybe something happened as a result of that. But what did come about, last night at a team meeting at Carlisle, Dwayne Thomas got into an argument with an assistant coach. He was at practice this morning, not for all the practice. He left before it was over. And then about 3 o'clock this afternoon, George Allen made the announcement, Dwayne Thomas has been dropped. He said in a statement, "We all tried to help Dwayne, the coaches, the players, the entire organization. I like him and I wish him good luck. He is talented, but talent alone is not enough." As we say, Thomas was at practice this morning. The trouble began with the meeting. The Redskins gave up a lot to get him. 2 high draft choices, number 1 next year in 1975 and a number 2 in 1976. Now, Thomas will be placed on waivers tomorrow. George Allen could get some of that draft choice of talent back again, but whether or not he can get number 1 and number 2 is highly doubtful. Moses Denson and Larry Smith, of course, now become the 2 top candidates at fullback. That gives Herb Mulkey probably a better chance at a running back along with Larry Brown. So, Dwayne Thomas dismissed. In Chicago today, the joint meetings continued in the pro football strike at the urging of W.J. Usry, the chief federal mediator. According to one report, the owners had come up with a new proposal. Usry said last night during one break in the meeting that the next move would be up to the owners. He didn't explain. Now, the players' position was weakened somewhat in the last few days. 4 teams of the 26, the Baltimore Colts, the Buffalo Bills, Cincinnati, and San Diego, those 4 teams have voted not to go out, even if the Players Association decrees that the union will go out again when the cooling-off period expires. And on the matter of Moses Malone, all we can tell you right now is that he's gone back to his home in Petersburg, Virginia, to discuss what is said to be a brand new offer, an increased offer by the Utah Stars of the American Basketball Association. We have to keep in mind several things, I believe, about those contracts. They're listed by ABA, for example, at $1 million plus, and Drizel estimates it, Lefty, at $490,000. Some of these are based on bonuses. For example, in the case of Malone, if he attends college, and if he passes 12 credits per year, he would get $50,000. That's a big if. Well, the U.S. Open Tennis Championships begin tomorrow at Forest Hills, New York. And today at a luncheon, Jimmy Connors and Chris Everett made it the Jimmy and Chris Show. The famous tennis lovers will be married November 8th, and Jimmy recalled when they met.
We went out. We went to have roast beef. I can tell you word for word everything at the Carlton Towers in London. And we sat for, I think, 2.5 hours and just talked. And if we didn't want to talk, we didn't have to talk. And we could do anything we wanted, the 2 of us. It was just, felt comfortable. Between the 2 of us, we were so relaxed and just anything that came up we could talk about. And if we didn't want to talk, or if we wanted to get up and I said, you want to go, let's go walk around the block, or let's walk back to the hotel. It was just, everything went very easy, you know, and it was just no pressure, no nothing, you know. And at the time, I think that's what both of us really wanted, was no pressure, because it was both our first Wimbledons, and I think a lot of pressure was on us then. So it was just...
Chris, how would you describe Jimmy, not the tennis player, but just again, put the same way?
Well, I think he's very different off the court than he is on the court. I think, you know, sometimes the press seems to build him up like he's, you know, the bad guy on the court. But off the court, he's not that way at all. You know, he's very sensitive, and he's very fun to be with. You know, he's very extroverted and he's outgoing, and I think that's what attracted both of us, because I don't think I am. I think I'm more introverted.
In the National Amateur Golf Championship at the Ridgewood Country Club, Paramus, New Jersey, Marty West III of Chevy Chase, Maryland, and Steve Lako of Bethesda both won today. 2 other area golfers reported from so far. Henry DeLozier and Roger Simpkins both lost. Simpkins is from Chestertown, attends University of Maryland. George Burns, a former University of Maryland player, did advance today. In baseball, the Orioles now 7 games back, and it looks very tough for Baltimore. The Orioles are at Texas, and the Red Sox, who lead the American League East, are at Chicago. 2 of the National League East leaders are on the coast, Pittsburgh at San Francisco and the Cardinals at San Diego. The Dodgers, leading by 3, are at home against the Chicago Cubs. Glenn?
The D.C. Elections Board says financial reports filed with it show that Mayor Washington has spent $100,000 on his primary election campaign. According to law, he can only spend $20,000 more. His opponent, Clifford Alexander, has spent $53,000, but his campaign has raised only $71,000 thus far.
Everybody wants to work for Arnold because Arnold's pizza cars are sporty pizza cars. 4 different 5-speed Toyotas. The lowest sticker price 5-speeds in America. 2 Corollas. My S5 and my SR5. My Corona SR. And my beautiful Toyota Celica GT. And my beautiful daughter, Brenda. Everybody wants to work for Arnold. See how much car your money can buy from Toyota.
I just picked up a few things, but for the same price 2 years ago, I could have bought 3 bags of groceries. My budget's a nightmare. But here's a place where $1 is still worth something. McDonald's. Look, cheeseburgers, regular fries, and Coca-Cola for the 3 of us. I get away for less than $3. And since I don't have to cook and clean up, I'd say it's more than worth it. You deserve a break today at McDonald's.
Daddy, see what I got at Robert Hall? These brushed denim jeans. See the pockets? And this embroidered knit top?
Nice, nice.
And this ribbed knit vest? And these jeans with a buckle.
Nice, nice.
How much?
And these jeans and this turtle.
Honey, how much?
$6.99 each for the jeans and $4.99 for each top. Only $36 for everything.
Nice, nice.
Robert Hall. Good clothes that don't cost the shirt off your back.
Here come those tired old tomatoes, that lifeless lettuce. But now Hanover announces the end of the same old salad. New Hanover 3-bean salad. Garden fresh fancy beans in a delectable sauce, good with anything. And put in a wide-mouthed glass jar for easy spooning.
I just invented a new salad.
You can too, with a little help from new Hanover salads. Try all 5. Hanover, the end of the same old salad.
The Reverend John McLaughlin, a Jesuit priest who became a White House assistant to former President Nixon in 1970, is here with us tonight. Mr. McLaughlin gained prominence in the last few months of the Nixon presidency as a strong defender of Mr. Nixon. That in his somewhat unorthodox style earned him the wrath of the Jesuit order. Mr. McLaughlin has stayed on as a White House aide, and yesterday, Presidential Press Secretary Gerald Terhorst announced that Mr. McLaughlin's imminent departure might be forthcoming from the White House staff. Mr. McLaughlin, as I said, is with us, and let's find out from him whether he's leaving or staying in the White House.
I've agreed to stay on for the transition, and beyond that point, as I understand it, there will be discussions. I'd be both privileged and willing to continue to serve for the new president if that service were substantive, if it's not a functionary job, and if indeed he wishes me to serve.
He hasn't really asked you that in that case.
No, I spoke to Jerry about that afterwards, and he told me that he based his statement on a prevailing impression.
Jerry, you mean Jerry Terhorst?
Jerry Terhorst, not on hard, specific information.
All right, what is your defense now of Mr. Nixon in view of his famous admission that he did not tell all, in view of the Judiciary Committee's report indicating that he should have been impeached? Do you defend him now?
No, I am not conducting any systematic defense of President Nixon. I haven't said anything in point of fact since April the 5th, or August the 5th, when there were substantial new revelations which I think considerably altered the picture. That is not
altered your opinion also, then?
Yes, I feel that it really made it impossible to continue a systematic position.
Do you feel?
In 25 years of performing, B.B. King has graduated graduated from the Chitlin Circuit to the College Circuit to Carnegie Hall, commanding $10,000 a night. But in the blues tradition, he's paid his dues, and it's in performances like this that he gets his payback. At the State Department, Janie Taylor, News 4 Washington.
And that's our program for this evening. Join us again tonight at 11.
Stay tuned for WRC-TV editorial review.